our sons. And going back to the Linrose days, that's when Reed got his first job as a paper boy, and he made $10 a month.
If that, what much?
Not very much. It was a little local newspaper that you threw away as a freebie, but if you could convince some nice person to buy a subscription, you made a little bit more money. And Reed had a few customers that had subscribed to this little local newspaper that wasn't up to much. But he was very faithful in delivering those papers, and we helped him. I don't remember if Dad helped him very much, because Dad was pretty busy with a lot of things, but Karen and I would help him. He wanted to keep the Sabbath day holy, and one of the delivery days was Sunday, and then one day during the week. And we would help him, especially on Saturday night. He could pick up the papers on a Saturday night, and we helped him fold them and put the rubber bands around them, or put them in the plastic bag if it was inclement weather. And he would go out, and I think I'm telling it correctly, he would go out before midnight on Saturday night and do his Sunday deliveries so he could keep the Sabbath day holy. And as a result of his work as a paper boy, he earned enough money after tithing to completely buy his first 10-speed bicycle. And that was his dad's doing, that he wanted one, and Dad said, well, if you're old enough, get a job and earn it. And he did. And he became known throughout that little Temple City area as being such a good paper boy that when there was an award given for the outstanding paper boy of the year or something, I don't remember what they called the award, Reed received it, and the award was to go someplace and see a circus. I don't remember whether it was downtown Los Angeles or where, but it was like the Barnum and Bailey Circus coming to town, and his reward for being selected as the outstanding paper boy was tickets to that circus, and it was held on a Sunday. And he said, no thank you, I don't do things like that on Sunday. And he took the accolade of being the outstanding paper boy, but somebody else got the tickets to the circus, because he valued keeping the Sabbath day holy. And they were so good through Little League and all the opportunities that they had to play ball, that from time to time there were games scheduled on Sunday, and none of our kids ever participated. That was David. Karen didn't play those sports, but Reed and David and Sherry, I don't think Julie ever played him either, but those three did play. And Sherry had the experience when she played in a Little League girls softball league that her dad taught her to pitch. He would stand out in the street, and I don't know how much time he would spend, but she would throw balls to him. He acted as her catcher, and he would teach her the ins and outs of pitching until she became one of the top pitchers in her Little League softball team. And she was the first name announced, and I don't know if there was anything significant about that, but when they announced the players that were selected to the All-Stars, and hers was the first name called out, so she was selected on the All-Star team. And her coach was selected as the coach of those All-Stars, and he got mad at Sherry because it was a game that was really important to him, and she was his star pitcher, and the other team knew that she wouldn't be playing on Sunday. And so when they asked if that game could be rescheduled for another day, for a Saturday. The opposing team said no, we want it to stay as it is scheduled on a Sunday, knowing that Sherry's team wouldn't have Sherry as a pitcher, and they lost the game. And so even though she was selected to be on the All-Star team, that coach retaliated against her own coach, to the point where they lost games because he refused to let Sherry pitch. He had to play her at least 2 innings of a game because those were the Little League rules. And so even though she was his star and was an all-star on that all-star team, he would put her out in the outfield where nothing happened. And he got to the point in some games where he ran out of pitchers, and he had girls standing at the pitching mound who had never pitched a ball, rather than to put Sherry in and let her pitch a game. But we were proud of her because it was more important to keep the Sabbath day holy than it was to pitch in that ball game on a Sunday.
Okay, I think, have we about finished the pre-BYU years?
Well, I talked about the band, and how each of you in your turn looked forward to the All-Western Band Review because they always won. David marched as a sophomore when they didn't compete because they had retired. If you won 3 years in a row, you retired the trophy and you marched as an honor band that year. So David didn't actually compete, and it was bad weather, so they marched in a gymnasium, but they played Stars and Stripes Forever. It was glorious. We loved David's year. But he quit the band. He even gave up the regular trombone and went to a bass trombone because he liked the sound of it. And they were starting by then to do field shows besides the marching. And so David did a field show, and you could stand or sit in the audience and hear David on his bass trombone because it had a distinctive sound when they were playing. So he got private lessons and really loved that. But he loved to sing, and he was a good singer. And the little cute red-headed non-member girl that he dated from sophomore until his senior year in high school was a singer too. And the two of them decided they wanted to try out for chanteurs, and they did. That was the singing group, 10 boys and 10 girls, and they did choreographed competitions.
Yeah, now, you're getting ahead. The question was, anything else prior to the BYU that we've missed? We'll get to chanteurs.
Oh my goodness, that is.
Yeah,
I can't remember because David was a little boy when we went to BYU, so no.
I think we've got the pre-BYU years pretty well
done. Karen and Reed and the other youth of the ward were so outstanding as young people that they represented less than 10% of the Arcadia High School student body, but they held the majority of the student body offices at the high school. Reed, as I've said once before, Reed was the president of Senior Man's. Karen was the president of Kiowa's. We had a couple of 2 or 3 different boys that were the student body presidents. We would have liked to have seen Reed go out for that, but he tried under pressure in junior high school from one of his teachers to run for student body president of the junior high school at 9th grade, and so he did. He ran, but they ended up having 2 boys and a girl run, 3 of them run, and the vote got split. And if there'd just been 2 running, I feel certain he would have made it because he was such an outstanding young man. one thing I didn't mention about the years in junior high, and so that would be pre-BYU. Reed, when he was a 9th grader at Dana Junior High School, came walking down the halls, came upon a group of bullies that were intimidating a young boy, 7th grader or 8th grader, 7th grader, small in stature, and they were giving him a really hard time. And Reed went to his defense, and Reed was one of the, a lot of kids outgrew him by high school, but he was one of the biggest boys in junior high school, and he came to the defense of that boy. And it made these bullies mad, and they were going to get even with Reed. And so all the next day, or whenever, right soon after that happened, they would see him in the halls and they'd say, "We're going to get you after school. We're going to get you after school." So the school was really buzzing. A lot of the kids knew about it, that they were going to railroad Reed and probably beat him up off of the school grounds. They were all 9th graders. And one of the junior high teachers, Mr. Long, had heard the little buzz, and he knew what was going on. So he didn't say a word to anybody, but he just watched Reed as he might even have been the teacher from the last period, I don't know. But at any rate, he watched Reed when school was over. And sure enough, just as he came out of his last classroom, these big bruisers that were bullies were there, 2 or 3 of them, and they took Reed by each arm and started to walk him out of the school grounds. And some kids were following because they wanted to see what was going to happen. And Mr. Long kind of hung back, but he walked too. And they went to a yard that was close to the junior high, a backyard that they had access. I don't know whose yard it was. And they got as far as getting Reed into that backyard where it was fenced in and they were out of sight, so they could do whatever they wanted with kids watching, but nobody that would have dared to intercede in Reed's behalf. And before they could lay a hand on Reed, Mr. Long appeared and broke it up and actually physically brought Reed home from school. So he didn't just send him on his way and maybe have these kids wait and catch up with him later. He brought him home and reported to Dad and I what had happened. And then the next day at school, Mr. Long reported it to the principal, and he called those boys into the office, into the principal's office, and said, "If we have any more trouble the rest of this year, none of you 3 will graduate from junior high school." And there was never another incident. But we decided we ought to prepare Reed in case something else ever happened. So we gave him karate lessons. Did you have some comment?
Yeah, there was, one of the things Mr. Long said is, "This isn't the way you do this. If you want to have it out, I've got boxing gloves at the school, and we will have a supervised fight, with boxing gloves."
I didn't remember that.
And I said, "Let's go." And they backed down. And then the rest is accurate there. But when it was offered one-on-one under supervised controlled conditions, none of them wanted to have anything to do with me.
And you probably just as well, because you didn't know how to box. You'd never been in a fight in your life. But we thought maybe he needs to know a little bit about the art of self-defense. And you were agreeable, so you took karate lessons for a while that 9th grade year. So Karen graduated from 9th grade as the outstanding graduate. She had the highest grade point average in the whole graduating class her 9th grade year. And she held the record for the city of Arcadia for several years for the longest softball throw. I don't know how she did that. She probably did it in connection with a PE class or something, because Karen was never an athlete. by choice, an athlete. She didn't play any of the other sports like Sherry did, and Julie never did either. But Karen threw the softball long enough that record stood for a lot of years until somebody finally broke it, which we always thought was fun. And Reed, I've talked about his football and his wrestling. I talked about that earlier today. But one thing I didn't mention, he decided just for the heck of it to go out for baseball his senior year, just for the experience. He had always played football and then wrestling and church basketball, but he had never played baseball since his Little League days. And he went out, and he was out at practice on the field at Arcadia High, and a ball came from some other field or something. He didn't see it coming, and hit him in the jaw and broke his jaw. And he had to, did you have to be wired shut? No, but you had to be really careful while that broken jaw healed. So Reed had broken collarbone, broken leg, I don't know how many broken thumbs and fingers. We quit counting over those, and broken jaw, all as part of his sports life in growing up in Arcadia.
Okay, I think we've beat the